folks, welcome back to DS Outdoors. I'm here with my buddy Jack. I'm in his neck of the woods, and we're here today to talk about a few different pistol setups.
Yeah, I want to take the opportunity to show you how I set both my guns up for pretty much everything I do in terms of like concealed carry, EDC, and shooting competitions. So to kind of get a good sense of what I got a pretty much a standard Glock 19 here with an SRO and TLR7A, and also have a Glock 45 with a Trigger Gun SRO and an X300 Vampire. I like to set up pistols how I like it, so I brought two of my guns that I pretty much use for everything, and I'm going to show you why and the philosophy and what I put into these guns to tailor it towards those use cases. To kind of start out, I got a Glock 19 with a SRO, TLR7A, and a Glock 45 with a Trigger Gun SRO and X300 Vampire on there. The Glock 19 I use for CCW and EDC, and the Glock 45 I use for competition and anything more practical like LARPing and stuff, shooting at night under night vision, which is really fun.
So with a lot of different pistol brands out there, why are you choosing Glock consistently?
I chose Glock mainly because it's a really simple platform. It's really easy to maintain, super reliable. Another thing is that it is like a good baseline performance pistol. If you're like an average shooter, or if you're like the ball-to-ball Grandmaster USPSA shooter, the pistol will match your skill level. It will outshoot you in pretty much every regard. So say if you get a Taurus G3, you could easily outgrow that as a Grandmaster shooter. But if you get like a CZ Shadow 2 and you're like a weekend range warrior, or you just go to the indoor range and just mag dump, that's not doing you a good service. Glocks, if you put the time in, if you put the effort in, they can really match your skill level, and the ceiling is super high, which I like a lot. The magazines and replacement parts are readily available and affordable. On top of that, holsters such as like the Safariland here, like T-Rex arms, sidecars, and stuff like that, affordable as well, and they're plentiful. I mean, the secondary market is insane. You can get stuff used, new, and you can modify it to your needs exactly. Like I'd put a bunch of mods into here to suit it to my needs. As far as the purpose behind why I built these two Glocks, I wanted a platform that I could spend a lot of time in, get a lot of training conversion in terms of like dry fire competition, and training on my own time. So whatever platform I choose or use, it retains it. So if like I shoot my Glock 45, the skills are transferable to my EDC gun, so I don't have to spend twice the amount of time training. So it cuts down on that, and it maximizes my training time. Another thing why I like to talk about this is that a lot of people, they buy like one of every gun brand pistol, like a SIG P320, CZ Shadow 2, Taurus G3, what have you. I think it's a good idea to standardize what you're going to be doing with the pistol, so you can be proficient, and if you do have to use it, God forbid, you can be good at it and stop the threat, is what I was saying.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. So let's get into it. As far as my Glock 19 goes, I have the Trigger Gun SRO on here, 5 MOA dot. I like the Trigger Gun SRO, with especially that dot size, because last year I was using the Holostone 509T with the 2 MOA reticle, and it was kind of hard to pick up if you're shooting fast and shooting on the move. 5 MOA dots and the bigger dot sizes are great for that. As far as red dot choice, the reason I chose the SRO itself, now some people will be like, hey, it's 2023, you want a closed emitter optic, much like this aimpoint T2 or like an aimpoint acro on your red dot sight gun. I'm a civilian, or you can say dirty civilian, so I don't need an aimpoint acro, and if I was carrying it outside the waistband for any practical purpose, I would have a carbine with an aimpoint T2 or a closed emitter optic that I would use before that, and the optic or the holster would have a optic hood on it, so it protected from any dirt debris. Another thing is, while I was using the 509T, I treated it like I would an SRO. You don't want to abuse your equipment, but you want to use it. So I don't treat the SRO any differently than I did my Holostone 509T. So the duty rated stamp of approval that the 509T got, I don't think it applies to me or the SRO, so that's why I chose this one. And it has a huge window, and it works well in the night vision for me. So yeah, as far as the iron sights on this side, I have the Dawson Precision iron sights. They're blacked out with red dots. Iron sights don't matter, or they don't matter at all. Just because if your optic does go down, like if it gets cracked or fog, you can't use your iron sights anymore, or if it gets filled with mud, you're not going to be able to look through it. The only scenario where the iron sights would be useful is if your optic literally flies off, it turns off, or the glass slowly falls out. Or if you're in a low light scenario and you forgot to turn your brightness up, you can still use your iron sights, but most of those scenarios are out of your control or remedied by preventive maintenance, what I'm trying to say. As far as the flashlight on this pistol, I have the TLR-7A to use with my T-Rex arm sidecar. TLR-7A is like the best light for any concealed carry purposes, let's be honest. Like you can run an X300U if you want to be that guy, but TLR-7A is more than bright enough for my needs and looks cool. It fits the size profile of the Glock 19 almost perfectly. It's almost like it's made for it. On the Glock 45, really similar, a ZEV slide. I didn't touch on that, but I use ZEV slide because it has the lowest optic cut for the Trijicon RMR. So the taller optic like the SRO don't sit as tall and they conceal a little bit better. This one's the ZEV Omen slide, the Glock 19 is the ZEV Citadel slide. The Glock 45 is wearing a marigold sights, blacked out as well. I go blacked out, I don't think I touched on this, mainly because with night vision you don't want the tritium, and with red dots you want target focus, so you don't want any color or fiber optics messing with your sight picture. As far as iron sight location on the pistol, I know some people run the irons forward, irons rear, or no irons. It doesn't really matter. Do what works for you. As far as like slide choices, I went with the ZEV slides. They're aftermarket slides. I know people were like, do you want direct milled, OEM slide cut like the Glock MOS or like the SIG system for this, meant for their like Romeo 1 Pros and stuff. I go for direct milled. The ZEV slide cut is really nice because it sits it low and it has like better recoil bosses for the optic. But if your optic's direct milled, you don't have to use any plates. You reduce screws stripping out or walking loose. Another thing with these ones is you want to make sure you indicate with the paint pen your windage and elevation in your screws, just to be able to get a status check on if those screws are still tight, even though you know you installed them correctly. The plate systems do tend to sit the optic a little bit higher, so that's kind of a learning curve that some people might have to go over. Hide overboard type issues, I know. Like especially with like Delta Point Pros and stuff, the deck height of the optic is pretty thick for 2Cs. The Delta Point Pro is pretty nice. It honestly goes back to the SRO. The SRO is a nice optic because it kind of blends the pluses of a competition optic with the pluses of a duty grade optic. So it's not either one. I know people that shoot the piss out of SROs and they still run. And I know the people that shoot the piss out of like Trijicon RMRs and Acros and stuff, and they run as well. But the SRO is kind of like a sweet spot in the middle of a red dot you can abuse, but still gives you the performance. So where like Romeo 1 Pros, Delta Point Pros, or like the Seymour style optics, you can use them, but they're not as durable as other offerings. So for frame mods, frame modifications, I kind of touched on this a little bit with the flashlights already, for the reasoning behind them. The X300 Vampire is super good under night vision. If you have night vision, you're awesome. It's a worthwhile investment, and it gives you the power of the sun with the LED IR illuminator on there. With the white light, I'm just a civilian, so I don't need to have like a million candela on my pistol. And the X300 Vampire, the white light has a good hot spot, so I kind of like it for what it is. And if I know your viewers aren't entire gun nuts, but candela is the measurement of how like the tightness of a light beam. It's kind of like 100,000 candela is like pretty much going to be the standard rate for like rifle lights, and you can get a pretty tight beam out to like 100 meters. For like the TLR-7A and the X300 Vampire, it's going to be a little bit open, maybe 50 meters to 100 meters, or 50 meters and in is more a realistic expectation for the performance of those lights. Going into frame mods, I keep getting sidetracked. I didn't really do much with the frames. There's really no need to. The only thing I really did was add the flashlight and add a CHPWS speed feed. This pretty much fills the little anus area of the Glock. Pretty much completes the mag well that's included on the Gen 5 Glocks. I don't want to use a mag well like an aluminum one, just because if you have to strip the mag out and you're using the standard length magazines, it makes it a little bit difficult. The CHPWS speed feed lets you strip the mags. Yeah, it's pretty sick, and it's lightweight, low profile. I know some people will notice, like, hey, you don't have any like stippling or upgrade triggers or upgrade slide releases on the Glock. I feel no need to change those. The triggers are fine. Like I said, the Glocks are a baseline pistol. It pretty much depends on how you shoot them. They match your skill level. I felt agency arms and stippled Glocks and felt the nicest triggers, but I don't think they give you any sort of statistical increase in performance that would worth the investment, like $400 or something for a stipple, or risk damaging your own. Yeah, I think what you get out of the Glocks, the stippling's fine. It works. It works with gloves, works with wet hands, and it doesn't wear on you too much. Where like Smith & Wesson MP 2.0, that's just like sandpaper. It works good for if you're like doing shooting competitions, but if you're carrying an EDC, it's gonna like grind on you. That's pretty much the philosophy behind that.
So why can't you just have one gun do everything for you?
You certainly can. It just won't be optimized to what you're using it for. Like I said earlier, I had a Glock 19 for all of last year, and I used it for everything I did for night vision, competition, and EDC. I like having two guns just because if you want to dry fire or do something at home in terms of practicing, you don't have to clear and safe the firearm and like waste like ammunition with bullet setback and stuff. You know, I'm pinching pennies there, but it's a thing. If you have two guns that interchange parts like these two, you have backup parts that you don't have to go buy or track down in a limited amount of time, which is a big thing. So say if you're at a shooting competition and your firing pin just explodes or something, you're like, okay, let's just harvest that from this gun and use it, and then when we get done for the day, let's just re-put the firing pin back in there. And since these are super simple guns, like any striker fire pistol, it's easy to do, even on a range. With the one gun do everything, you can certainly conceal carry the Glock 45. It won't be as nice in the summer, but in the winter it's totally doable. I started with a super small Glock 43X as my carry gun. I moved up to the Glock 19, tried out the Glock 45 as my concealed carry piece, but moved back to the Glock 19 just because it fits my needs a little bit better and how I dress and where I go. So yeah.
So if you had to choose one of the two, I know you just gave me a good reason to have two, but if you just had to have one, which one would it be?
The Glock 19, 100%. I know I kind of coerced Drew into buying a Glock 19 for his first firearm. It does good at everything. It's a baseline. It's a Toyota Camry. Gets you point A to point B. Nothing special. Like you can trick it out like I did and have fun with it, or you can leave it stock. I think you did with yours.
Yep.
Another thing to touch on is you don't necessarily need to do this with Glocks exactly. I know P320s, SIGs, P320s, like Smith & Wessons, Walthers, or kind of you can meld that into this role as well. So if you have a personal preference, or if you're already invested in that system, say if you already have like a PDP full size, just pick up a PDP compact and do the same thing. I think they have the same exact setup where you can get like a short slide, long grip, and a compact size, so you can switch the slides around. And I think the mags are interchangeable too. So yeah, it's pretty much how you tailor it. Another big thing I like to touch on is that this concept saves you money. So you can spend a lot more time at the range, buying extra magazines, training, dry firing, and stuff like that.
Should we do some shooting?
Yeah, let's go do some shooting.
I should have less ammo. So I'm going to gun timer, baby.
Hope you enjoyed us shooting. We definitely killed it out here.
I absorbed a lot of information though. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did too.
We got a good training done, have some purpose behind it. If you have any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out to me. My Instagram handle is at Jack Rapala. You'll find me.
I'll put the link down in the description, make it easy for you.
Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned a lot. I'm kind of a nerd with this stuff and trying to show that to other people. So,
Yeah. Thanks again for tuning in.